Hey guys, good afternoon here. Jeff, aka GCurse. I hope you're all having a great Sunday. As I get older, I find myself constantly kind of missing the old days, I guess you could say. There's an old saying that you cannot go home again. And that's honestly kind of true. You cannot go home. But it doesn't mean you cannot that you have to forget about things from your past. And maybe it's because I'm just getting up there in age. Hey, look at me. I'm going gray. I got gray here. I got gray here. I'm bald here. I accept that I am no spring chicken anymore. I accept that. I accept that a lot. However, maybe it's just because I've been getting older. I find myself constantly kind of reminiscing about things from my past. And I thought, you know what? Let's do a special series, I guess you could say, where I talk about things from my past, good or bad. And I'll just give you little bits of like little anecdotes and I can talk about it because talking is something I love to do. So, the one thing I've been kind of really finding myself just really remembering is one of the many toy collections I used to have when I was really young, and that was the 1990s Toy Biz Marvel action figures. Oh my gosh, they released so many figures from the Marvel universe. It was not funny. If there was a figure, if there was a character that was in a Marvel comic book, 99% of the time there was a 1990s Toy Biz Marvel action figure based on it, except Toad. I don't think they ever released Toad, but they released a lot of figures. And I figured, you know what? Let's talk about some of the figures that I really remember fondly. So let's get to that right about now. Okay, so let's go to a website that you can find a lot of stuff on. It could be new stuff, it could be, older things. And that website is the one and only eBay, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, eBay. The world is at your fingertips. Anyway, okay, so the first figure I really want to talk about, it is actually the very first Marvel Toy Biz action figure I ever had, and that one is the second edition 1992 The Uncanny X-Men Wolverine. That's right, we're going the DSP gaming route. But instead of treating my parents like utter crap like DSP does, I'm going to be talking about some fond memories I have of this figure. This was the very first figure I had, and oh my god, the memories. The memories of this figure. This figure came out in 1992. It came out just before the cartoon series actually debuted. I played with this figure so much. I played with the figure so much his left arm broke off at the elbow because the plastic was not that good. It had like a metal pin to hold the arms together at the elbow. And I played with it so much that the plastic on the forearm part broke off. It literally just broke off one day, and the poor arm just it fell off. So, as an 11-year-old, I did what all children do. That's right, I pulled out the scotch tape. I pulled out the scotch tape and I wrapped it up in scotch tape. It looked like Wolverine had a cast on his arm. The only thing left that I could have done was get like a little Sharpie and write on it like oh my god, the memories, the memories. I fucking love it. Well, the X Marvel Toy Biz action figures, especially the X-Men figures, they had a special feature. Every toy tried to have a special feature. For Wolverine, he actually had two features. Now, I'm going to go to the back picture of the back package. There we go. There we go. Basically, Wolverine, his two action features. He had pop out claws that were on a spring, and he rotated at the waist. So basically, if you put your, you wrap the finger on his waist, and then you used your thumb on his back, and you moved your thumb back and forth, it could simulate Wolverine clawing left and right, which was awesome. Yeah, like at this point, I had the last toy collection I had before the Toy Biz Marvel action figures was Ninja Turtles. So I would actually have Wolverine fighting, like, say, Shredder, for example. And I would have Wolverine kind of standing on top of Shredder. And if you rotated it, it looked like he was, slashing at Shredder, which was awesome. It was freaking awesome. One thing that I loved about the Toy Biz Marvel X-Men or Marvel Universe figures, the packages came with a nice little story. For example, Hasbro, they don't give you stories like for Transformers. They do not give you stories for the Transformer figures at all. You just get the toy in the box, and that's it. Here, you actually get a nice little paragraph. So here, let's read this. Let me get a drink real quick first. When it comes to fighting evil mutants, the X-Men know there's no one better than Wolverine. With his razor-sharp adamantium claws, his lightning-quick reflexes, and his unmatched combat experience, Wolverine can outfight anyone. Thanks to his super-fast mutant healing ability, in just a few short hours, he's totally healthy and ready for action again, no matter how serious his wounds. Damn. Just reading that alone gets you real hyped to have this figure. I honestly, I've always believed that if you have a good story on the back of the package for somebody to read, it's a major factor in if a person wants to buy that toy or not. I figure you should give the consumer everything possible. Give them a good story. Give them, good pictures of the figure. Let them see the figure. It needs a lot of stuff to sell a figure. And back in the 90s, Toy Biz did a pretty good job with these figures. Now, here you actually have the instructions for Wolverine. Slashing action. Push the claws in, and they slash back out. Hold Wolverine around the waist with your thumb on his back, and then you can quickly twist Wolverine for battle action. I'll be honest, guys. If I ever strike it big on YouTube and I got a lot of money or whatever, it'll never happen. But if it did, I would get a bigger house or an apartment or whatever, and I would start collecting these figures on top of my Transformers figures. But yeah, so basically this figure holds the best memories, because this was like the very first Marvel action figure I ever had, and it just really brings back the childhood memories. The one thing now, I'm not sure if you can really see it, but in the back, behind Wolverine, is a card. Your boy Jeff, aka GCurse, I was not a smart child, I'll be honest. I got the card out. I looked at it, and this is part of X-Men Series 2, if I remember correctly. Here, let's do some quick research. X-Men Series 2 trading cards. Omega Red. Actually, hold on. I want to leave this. Let's see here. Let's duplicate this. There we go. Okay, so here's the card. Now I know you can't really. Oh crap! Okay, hold on. Let me. Where is? Ah, here it is. Okay. So now you see the card here. I know it's a little bit difficult to see it because of the toy. Wait, no. Let's close that. Let's close this and close this. There you go. So, oh no, this is Wolverine. Sorry, I'm looking at it. It's a 2-part card. So never mind. Hold on. I gotta find Wolverine. But anyway, Omega Red is the other part of that set. Oh, here it is. Here's Wolverine. Okay. So as you can see here, this is Wolverine, and then on the back of the card, right there is a Wolverine card. I did something really stupid, ladies and gentlemen. I pulled the card out, and I looked on the back of the card, and in the middle of the card, it had a branding, I guess you should say. It said Toy Biz. And I already had this card set. So like I looked at it and I stupidly thought, wow, they ruined the card because it had Toy Biz in the middle on the back of the card. So I threw the card out because I thought the card was ruined. I did that with every Marvel X-Men card that came with these toys, because I thought the card was ruined. Like who would want to see that brand or that logo on their card? So I threw them away. And I was so stupid. Come to find out, those cards are actually pretty valuable because those are what people call promo cards. Oh, God. I was so stupid. Now, here, let's actually go. So don't be shocked if you see the price here. I'm actually putting together a shopping list on eBay that I plan on buying pretty soon. Now, I do business with this person all the time. He even has the same Wolverine, the second edition, for $74. Wow. Okay, hold on. I'm wondering if he has any of the promo cards. X-Men. Let's go X-Men Series 1 promo. I'm just curious. Does he have any? Yep. Okay, so, well, I'm not sure if these are the same. Let's see. Let's try Toy Biz. Toy Biz. Ah, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen. Now, this is Series 1, not Series 2, but it's the same principle here. As you can see here, you have Toy Biz right there in the middle of the story. When I came across cards like this, I threw them out. I did not realize that these cards were actually valuable because they were promo cards. I didn't think about that at all. I just saw Toy Biz and I thought that looked stupid. So I threw it out. And now you can actually find cards that range from, like, say, $19.99, $7.99, $17.99, $19.99, $5.99, $19.99, $19.99. Okay, looks like $19.99 is kind of like the top price right now, but prices always fluctuate. $18.49, $19.99. I'm just curious, is there any that are actually more? Looks like they're all going for like $18 to $19.99. I'm actually kind of shocked about the price. I thought that they would have been a little bit higher, but still, I was so stupid. And the thing was, I had almost a full set of these promo cards. And I was just throwing the cards out left and right because, like I said, I did not think that I was, that I didn't think that they were special at all. I thought that basically they were just your standard cards that had his logo just stamped on it, and that was it. I didn't realize that these cards would actually become valuable in the future. But yeah, so that was the second edition X-Men Toy Biz Wolverine. Okay, so continuing on, we're on the same page of the guy I do business with. So let's see here, adult posters from more. I checked a while ago, and he actually had a decent action figures. Here you go, a decent selection. So I figured I would go through here and just kind of talk about some of the figures that I had growing up. Okay, so I already told you about Wolverine. So here, let's actually close out some of these windows. Okay, there we go. So I already had Wolverine. Another figure I had Gambit. Gambit is actually kind of a cult favorite when it comes to Marvel Toy Biz action figures. Gambit's special feature was that he actually had a kicking attack. Basically, you press the button on the back of Gambit, and basically his leg would kick. He would kick you, So let's just do a quick reading of his bio, or his little paragraph. Gambit has a mutant ability to take the energy of an object and put it to his own use. That usually means turning the object into deadly weapon. Gambit is a martial arts expert with a lightning fast karate kick. And when battling multiple attackers, Gambit relies on his techno battle staff for additional assault power. Now, if I remember correctly, I think Gambit's power is, I think this is a little bit of, I think it's a little bit wrong, because if I remember correctly, I think Gambit has the ability to charge an item and turn it into a weapon. So, for example, say if Gambit was here and he had this cell phone, for example, he could literally, he has the energy in him. He would actually put that energy from him into the item itself, and then he would throw it and it would explode. So for them to say that the item had energy, that's like, I think that's a little bit wrong, but that's just me. So I can't recall when I got this figure. Oh, it was early, it was after I got Wolverine, but I can't recall when I got a lot of these figures. The only reason I remember getting Wolverine first is because he was the first figure, The one thing about Gambit that they really messed up on is his jacket. His jacket, it was like a vinyl type plastic. And if you would move his arms could do a 360. So basically go in circles, If you did that, it would actually shred and tear the coat, because the coat was this really fragile, weak vinyl or plastic or whatever you call it. Now, people will say, well, Jeff, you could take off the coat. And you're right, you could. But putting the coat back on, it was almost impossible. And if you were lucky to get the coat back on, basically the coat could have suffered severe tearing. So basically, the coat really was a victim of it could have been crafted better. Now, they actually did an update with the coat for the Gambit figure a few years later. It was a whole different Gambit toy, but instead of the coat being one piece, they actually had a two-piece coat. Basically, the arms, the sleeves of the coat were actually molded onto the arms itself, and then the coat was like a heavy rubber, You couldn't take it off, but you could move the arms. So it was a real good update. But yeah, so that's the one thing I really remember about this Gambit figure was how bad that coat was. Okay, so we're back here again. Let's just see here. Is there anything that I really want to talk about? Okay, let's go with Banshee really quick. If you are a fan of Marvel X-Men, Banshee, his power was that he could scream really loud, like a banshee basically. His the action feature for Banshee was his sonic scream. Basically what it was that they built a whistle. They built a whistle into the back of Banshee. So you would blow on it, and out the front of Banshee, you could hear like a whistling sound. The whistle was actually kind of crappy, to be honest. It wasn't really loud at all, The one memory I have of this figure, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just me being a germaphobe. But if I had cousins who would come over to play, or I had friends who would come over to play, they each would blow on this toy to make a whistle. Once they started doing that, my lips never touched that toy again. Nothing against my cousins and friends, but would you want to put your lips where a bunch of other people put their lips? But yeah, so basically, spread Banshee's cape by lifting the arms straight out from his sides, blow in his back, and Banshee will emanate a high-pitched whistle. I think sometimes when it came to these special action features, I think honestly they expected you to kind of use your imagination, because there's no way that the whistling feature of this toy was that good. Okay. Here's his little story or background or whatever you want to call it. Banshee is the mutant master of sound. With his mighty scream, he can rocket himself into the air and fly at near supersonic speeds. Fly at near supersonic speed. Or shatter the strongest steel. Banshee can even hypnotize enemies with a mind-numbing shriek. But the longer he screams, the weaker he becomes. If he screams for too long, he'll lose his voice and become helpless against his enemies as an ordinary human. So basically, his special ability was kind of also a risk to him. But yeah, so that was Banshee. The toy is kind of unremarkable. The only reason I really remember this figure is once that my friends and my cousins got a hold of this toy, I never even used that whistle ability again. Okay, so I think I'm just going to cover 2 more figures, and I think that'll be it, because that Wolverine segment really took a lot of time. Anyway, one of the more unique figures I really loved when I was younger was the Iceman figure. This was the first edition Iceman, even though it doesn't say first edition. This was the first edition. Basically, I loved him because he was clear. He was a clear figure because he was supposed to be ice, and ice is clear, Anyway, so basically his feature was his super ice slide. So basically this thing here is the whole feature here. However, it's kind of deceptive. Basically, what you do is you put Iceman on the slide. You then fill this little crevice with water. And then after you put the toy in the freezer, Iceman has to be attached to it for it to work. The water will freeze, and then the theory is you're supposed to remove the ice cube that Iceman is part of, and he can slide around like he was literally kind of on ice. Yeah. The issue was that they did not give you enough space to make the ice. It was pretty shallow. So if you would try to remove the figure and the ice, 99.9% of the time, the ice would actually crack and fracture. I like the idea, but it never really could work for me. No matter how careful I was, it would always break. Which is kind of sad, because in theory it actually sounds pretty cool, but it just does not work like it should. Okay, so for Iceman. Iceman has the mutant ability to turn himself into a being of living ice. Once he does that, he can create almost anything he wants. Ice slides, ice weapons, ice shields, not to mention icicles and snowballs. And when he really concentrates, he can create a building snowstorm. Oh, sorry, I thought I said building. Create a blinding snowstorm, even in the middle of July. But most important of all, the X-Men know that no matter how hot the battle, Iceman always keeps his cool. But yeah, so like I said, this figure I really, really remember and I really love because he is, he clear plastic. I just wish the ice cube ability, I wish it actually worked. This is actually also the card in the back. It is a Fleer Ultra 1994 X-Men card, and this one is Grizzly. But yeah, so that is it about this figure. And up next, I will talk about the final figure of, this video. Okay, guys. This final portion is going to be a little bit of a sad, sad memory for me. So let's get on with it, shall we? So Toy Biz, not only did they sell X-Men action figures, they went the entire spectrum of Marvel. X-Men, Iron Man, Fantastic Four, Captain America, Spider-Man, and this is where we're going to end today's video. From 1994 to like 1997, so almost 3 full years, I was actually I was actually a paper boy. Being a paper boy, a paper delivery person, whatever you want to call it, that was actually my very first job. And it was nice, but it was also kind of part of the hardest part of me growing up. When, because I was kind of nervous to become a paper boy. My mom and my grandmother, they're like, "Hey Jeff, why don't you become a paper boy?" And I was scared. You're asking somebody, to do something that they never did before. It takes a lot of courage for a person to do something that they never did before. So after, some talking and everything, I agreed. And basically the reason that I ended up becoming a paper boy was the way that my mother and grandmother kind of advertised it. They were like, "Jeff, if you become a paper boy, you could get some good money, and that money you get will be your money. You can do with it whatever you want. If you want to buy a video game, you can buy a video game. If you want to buy trading cards, you can buy trading cards. If you want to buy an action figure, you can buy an action figure. That money is yours to do with what you wish. And after that, I thought about it, and I thought, okay, if anything, I can work on my collections, I can work on my collections and, make some money, The one thing that people don't realize, especially in the 1990s, people took advantage of paper delivery carriers, paper boys, whatever you want to call them, It was not a glamorous job, to be honest. In the 1990s, even before the 1990s, instead, nowadays, everything being electronic, basically you have to pay online for say for your newspapers or whatever. But back in the 1990s, I would have to go house to house to house to house to collect the subscription money. The money was, I would start collecting the subscription money around the 20th of every month. And then the way it was say a subscription was like, say, $9.99 or whatever, So if you have, like, I had over 300 houses that I delivered to. So like from like 3 o'clock when I would get the newspapers, I was delivering papers from 3 o'clock till a little bit before 6. I mean, it was a long job, And that, keep in mind, the paper bag that I carried would only house I think it was like 50 to 75 newspapers at once. It was a nice sized paper bag that I would have to put over my head, and it would be like on my shoulders, So I would have to make 2 to 3 stops, go back home, pick up another load of newspapers, put them in my paper carrier, and go back out, Well, like I said, people take advantage of paper carriers, especially in the 1990s. I would go to collect, and there would always, like clockwork, there would be houses that you would try to collect from, and they would outright not answer the door, or they would tell you they're not going to pay. They would not pay, and if you continued to press the issue, they would call the cops. So it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't a glamorous job. There would be times like I said, I would have subscribers that would just not pay me. So I did what I did the only thing I could do. They would not pay. So I would have to go home, and I felt so embarrassed by doing this. I would have to go home, I would have to call the newspaper distributor, and I would have to say, "Hey, this customer that lives at this address, they did not pay their subscription. Please cancel." Well, the person that would get their subscription canceled, they would call the newspaper and say that newspaper carrier, he's lying, and they want their paper restarted. Keep in mind, I would have to give them like a little piece of paper. It was like a receipt, I guess you could say. And that was my proof that they paid. Well, these former subscribers would say, I paid Jeff, and he never gave me my paper, and reactivate my subscription. The thing is, I would have proof that they never paid because I had the little piece of paper. and all the time the newspaper would automatically just restart their subscription, and I would get yelled at. And then again, of course I would have to go and deliver the paper to them, only for them to kind of browbeat me, like how dare you cancel my subscription? It's like, well, you never answered your door, and you outright refused payment. I'm not going to give you a newspaper for free. I can't do that. I have to, I have to pay for these papers and whatnot. So basically what it was, like I said, I was given so many people to deliver papers to. I would collect the money. At the end of the month, I would actually get a bill for all the papers throughout that entire month. And then what I got via the customers from their subscriptions, I would put that money into like a large bank like envelope or a sack. I would then have to go to a specific bank to make the payment. A lot of the time, I was lucky to get, like, say, $50 back. I was lucky to get $50 back because the cost of everything was just so high. And then, like I said, there would be times that you would have a lot of subscribers that would not pay. Well, during the summer of 1995, it was one of the few times that 99% of all my customers actually paid. I actually had a large chunk of money, like, left after I paid my bill. I think it was nearing $300, if I remember correctly. I mean, that was like the best month that I had the entire time I was doing newspapers. It's like, wow, $300, So, like I said, I paid, I got my money back, and I was excited, because across the street from where I still live, there is a mall. So I figured, you know what? It's Saturday. I'm going to go to KB Toys, and I'm going to buy this figure. And this is the Venom second edition figure. I love Spider-Man, not as much as I loved X-Men, but I still like Spider-Man. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to take, I think I pulled like $75 out of my little savings that I had. In my bedroom, I had like a little drawer that I put all my money in. So it was a Saturday morning, or early morning, late afternoon, or late morning, early afternoon. And I was excited because the weather was nice. I'm going to go there. I'm going to buy this figure. I'm going to go to the arcade, play some games. And then there was a pizza restaurant that used to be in there. And I'm going to have a slice of pizza. It was going to be a nice Saturday, like. So, like I said, I got some money out, and I was going to head out to the mall. My grandmother, she was not the best of people. She was actually pretty abusive. Well, I was just about to go outside when I heard my grandmother, "Where the fuck do you think you're going?" And I turned around and I'm like, "Oh, I'll be right back. I'm just going to go get this figure. This new figure came out. I saw this figure when I was last at the mall, at the mall last week. I'm hoping that they have this figure. I'm really excited to buy this figure." "No, you're not." And I was a little bit confused. First I thought maybe that my grandmother and my mom were going to be going out and they needed me to go with them. And I'm like, I was actually kind of confused. I'm like, "I'm not." She goes, "No, you're fucking not." I'm like, okay. Uh, I'm a little bit confused. And she was like, get your money. And I went into my bedroom. I got my money out of my little drawer, and I brought it out. And she goes, give it to me. And I'm confused. I'm confused as all get go. I'm like, wait, what? She goes, give me your money. And I looked at my mom because I was really, really confused. And she goes, Jeff, just give your grandmother your money. So like I did what I was told. I gave her the money, and the next thing I know is she looked at me and goes, "Were you talking back to me?" And I'm like, "No." And the next thing I remember was my left ear was just hurting. It was just hurting. And like I said, it was hurting. And the next thing I knew was I was looking at the floor. I was looking at the carpet of the living room. What I did not realize, because of everything that happened, was my grandmother. She hit me so hard across my left ear. She hit me so hard across my left ear. It's like I was like in a state of shock. My ear was hurting. My jaw was hurting. My vision, it was like kind of like, ugh, like what's going on here? And I was looking at the floor, and my movements were like jerking, like what the hell just happened? Come to find out, like I said, my grandmother hit me. And this kind of led, this was like the genesis, I guess you could say. From that point forward, I really started to not allow people to even touch me. It got worse and worse and worse over the next, from 1995 through 1996. But I mean, it was just getting worse and worse and worse with my grandmother. Come to find out, she took the money that this child had, that he saved up and that he earned and everything from being a paper carrier. She just took the money. She just took the money. I'm not sure what she did with it, but I never saw that money again. Which was a gut punch, because especially when you're 13, 14, 15 years old, and it wasn't just a couple bucks. It was a nice stack of money, because I was doing this for a while. For it to be all just taken, for it just to be taken, that was a gut punch. So suffice to say, I actually never got this figure. This was one of the figures I really wanted to get, because I actually had a Venom figure where you would squeeze his legs and his mouth would open and close. I always wanted the Venom figure where where the symbiote head would actually come off. And as you can see here, it's a mask, and it reveals Eddie Brock. Yeah. But yeah, I never had a chance to get this figure, and even to this day, I do not let people touch me. Uh, it's like a self-defense mechanism for me. Like if somebody touches me from the back and I'm not aware of it, I turn around. Like I turn around and I anticipate an attack. I saw a mental health specialist, and they said, "Yeah, what you're suffering from is a form of PTSD. It's a form of PTSD, and it's really bad for me because I never had it diagnosed, and I never saw anybody about it, when it happened." But yeah, so it's really kind of sad, you know, like what kind of person takes a person's paper delivery money, you know? It's like, and the thing is, here's the thing. Even though, because this wasn't the first time, this was the first time she hit me that severely, to the point I kind of, I kind of blocked out the events of that moment. However, she was known for slapping. You looked at her the wrong way, you get slapped. If you said something, even if it wasn't anything disrespectful, like say you could just say something like, "Hey, I disagree with that," you could get slapped. Her favorite thing, I'm not sure what she got out of it, and part of part of it is what led to me being like this. She had a habit of piling, not just placing, but piling food onto a plate. She would put it in front of you, and she would tell you to eat. And even if you got full, even if you were full, it's like, oh, thanks, Grandma. That was a good meal. Thank you very much. A normal grandmother, she'd be like, oh, if you can't eat it all, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just happy you ate. My grandmother, no, she was not like that. She was actually, she forced people to eat everything. And by God, if you literally said, "Hey, Grandma, I can't eat anymore. I'm full," like my stuff, I'm full. She had this thing called a thimble, and she would put it on her finger, and she would hit you with it over and over and over again. And basically, she would hit you until you ate everything. There were times I ate everything and I ended up throwing up. And oh my God, if I did that, the rage that she would have. She would say I was wasting food. Well, you're literally force feeding somebody past the point of what they can take in. Of course they're going to throw up, But yeah, so I'm not really going to get any more about that. Basically, she was finally kicked out of our house, and it turned out she was diagnosed with having bipolar disorder or something like that. Honestly, I don't think it was bipolar. I think she's just a shitty person. But yeah, so, like I said, this is a little bit of a sadder story. Now I'm collecting Transformers, so I never had a chance to get this figure. I just think that this is an awesome figure. You could take off the mask. It looks like he even comes with a special chest plate, But yeah, so that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, guys, but that is it for this GCurse recalls. Like I said, I just kind of wanted to give, just give you my memories, I guess you could say, of some action figures that I had or that I wanted when I was growing up. Share some good and sad memories and everything. But I guess that's about it. I'm going to get this, get this edited and uploaded, and I will see you next time. As always, if you have a comment, feel free to leave it in the comment section. Do you have any of these figures? To me, I think that these figures were like peak 1990s. I think that if you're a toy collector, like these were the things to have in the 1990s. Did you have these figures? Would you like to have them now? Let me know what you guys think. Until then, I will see you all later. My name is Jeff, aka GCurse, wishing you all a great day. Stay safe, everybody. Peace out.